Good afternoon, this is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding, here to discuss some recent updates in 2021, the end of 2020, about FBAR penalties and kind of what's going on. So brief recap, FBARs foreign bank and financial account reporting, not a tax form, not even really an IRS form, but the IRS took the reins and started taking over enforcement back in 2003. It's used by U.S. persons who have foreign bank and financial accounts that in total, not per account, but in total, exceed $10,000 on any given day of the year. The due date, it used to be June 30th a few years back. They changed it so that the due date is now, it coincides with your tax return, April, October if you're on extension. The FBAR is actually currently on automatic extension, so you have until October, but that may not last forever. So just keep in mind that it's currently on automatic extension, but it should coincide with your tax return. Unlike your taxes, the form is filed separately and it's filed only electronically directly on the FinCEN website. That's the case whether or not you're filing your regular tax returns paper or electronic. So you missed reporting, right? You realize you should have filed the FBAR. You just jump on Google, your head starts spinning in one rabbit hole, out the next, trying to figure out what's going on, right? What do the penalties look like? So there's two main categories of penalties, either civil or criminal. The chance of a criminal penalty is super rare. Criminal penalties for foreign bank and financial account non-compliance typically coincides with other issues like money laundering and smurfing and structuring and evasion, not, hey, I forgot to report this bank account. So assuming it's civil, you're limited to monetary penalties. That's broken down further into willful or non-willful. Majority of the penalties are going to be non-willful instead of willful. So let's focus on non-willful for today. The non-willful penalty can be broken down into 4 different categories, okay? We're going to use $10,000 as the number because that's the number identified in the code, but it adjusts for inflation. So it's currently at around $13,500, a little more. 4 levels. A penalty waiver. Hey, a warning letter in lieu of penalty goes on your permanent record, but you're fine. One $10,000 penalty for the whole violation. Doesn't matter how many years. One $10,000 penalty per year. One $10,000 penalty per account per year, up to 50% because it can't exceed the willful penalty. Willful penalty, so you know, is 50% or $100,000. That $100,000 also adjusts for inflation. Whatever's higher, which basically means the $100,000 is the lowest penalty. People have tried to fight it. It doesn't really work. But when it comes to the non-willful penalty, especially in 2021, which is the current year, in case you're looking back on this presentation, there's been some wonderful results for taxpayers. A lot of courts have been saying it is a per form, not per violation. So let me give you an example. Let's take Miranda. And sweet Miranda has 5 accounts in Brazil and they're worth $500,000. Miranda did not know she was supposed to report. She didn't have a CPA. She fills it out by hand. She doesn't have any dividends or interest, let's say, so she didn't do the Schedule B. She's clearly non-willful. For any of you skeptics out there, she's non-willful, okay? She didn't know. So the IRS goes, okay, well, we're going to hit you with a $10,000 violation per account per year, up to the maximum, right? That's a huge gargantuan penalty. Miranda thinks this is BS. They end up going to court. What do the courts say? So a lot of the courts have been saying this. Look, non-willful means that there was no intent to do anything, right? It was a mistake. So it seems totally unjustified to hit someone with a $10,000 per violation per year penalty. Instead, it should be per form. And there have been a couple of recent cases, Kaufman, Bittner, Giraldi, which all basically say the same thing. When you're dealing with non-willfulness, it seems like too much of a punishment in order to make someone have to pay $10,000 per violation. It should be limited to $10,000 per form. So in Miranda's situation, anywhere from 3 to 6 years, depending on what the IRS wants to go after. 6 is normally the max. 3 is a lot of times where they cut it off. One thing to keep in mind about this, though, these are district court rulings currently. not Court of Appeals. So the Court of Appeals isn't bound to it. Different districts, different jurisdictions are going to have different outcomes. But 3 or 4 cases so far, so that's a good thing for taxpayers. If you want to get into compliance before, if you know you're out of compliance before you've been penalized, there's lots of various offshore disclosure programs, FBAR amnesty programs. There's voluntary disclosure if you're willful, streamlined domestic, which is for non-foreign residents, streamlined foreign, which is for foreign residents. Both programs are for foreign accounts, assets, investments, and income. There's also delinquency procedures and reasonable cause, depending on where you fall on the spectrum and what your risk tolerance level is. We have lots of free information available on our main website, goldinglawyers.com, as well as our sub-websites. You can always reach out and schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if you think it's appropriate. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.